So we're here at the Technology Policy Summit. We just finished a panel on tech's role in promoting greater government transparency and accountability. We're here now with Silona Bonewald, founder of the League of Technical Voters. She lives at the intersection of technology and our democracy. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Let's start by hearing about your organization, who you are, and what you're doing to push this very important objective forward.
First of all, it's the League of Technical Voters. We're a 501c3. I started it 5 years ago with trying to create systems to help transparency in government. Basically, the mission of the League of Technical Voters is to get technical people more involved in the political process. Because as a systems architect and someone who's designed content management systems, I saw much need in government to have some of the geekier component better integrated.
And greater government transparency is an idea that's widely embraced. Everyone seems to want to see it happen, but behind the scenes, it seems like it's a pretty daunting task. How do agencies get started and break this challenge down into manageable pieces?
Well, one of the things I was actually suggesting doing is creating a workbook with O'Reilly called Best Practices in Open Government. And because the thing is it's not just a technical process. In fact, it's hardly anything of a technical process. It's very known as to how we can do the technology aspects. It's more about how to handle the people aspects of it. This is a huge change management problem. Even if people love transparency, it's still really difficult, and there's a lot of accountability issues, there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of things along those lines. And so one thing that has to start off at the very beginning is people have to create their message. And they have to create a message that can handle getting beaten around occasionally. And not only that, but that message becomes your contract with the public about what you're going to be doing in regards to transparency. And once you've created that, whenever you screw up or you do something along those lines, the public will hold you accountable to your contract. And if you accidentally deviate, they'll let you know. And if you correct it, one funny thing that we all know about business is it's actually better that you mess up once and fix it properly than to never mess up at all in regards to the public trust. And so what's going to happen is some government agencies are going to have to mess up. And then after they mess up, they can come in and fix it properly, openly, with public discussion. And then the public's going to trust them even more than they ever have before.
And one thing we heard on the panel is that the challenge isn't just within each agency. Ellen Miller, the Sunlight Foundation's, talked about this notion of freeing data from the silos in which it currently resides. How do we begin to take on that challenge?
Well, I've been pondering that a lot. And one of the things that I created this entire concept of the transparent federal budget, which was actually just the largest example of transparent government. And I looked at it and I said, what is the most fundamental thing that we need to do? And that's getting the data out there. And I'm like, okay, well, what's the most simplest possible way we could do that? And I came up with citability.org, which is CIT ability. And with that, what it is it's just basically a really simple way to annotate all websites. And so for a bill, what it would look like is something like archive.house.gov / a path if needed, the bill number / date timestamp, and then pound, and then it walks through the legal notation to point to each individual paragraph. So it goes title, section, chapter, subchapter, paragraph, clause, boom. And then that link can be used for anyone externally to be able to document government. So if there's one paragraph that you don't like in telecommunications bill that's banning municipal Wi-Fi, you can take that link, put it in your WordPress blog, and document about it. And so what it does is it takes off. I would prefer that government not do interpretation. Interpretation inherently means bias. With government, I don't know what your bias is, and this is actually a huge Gen Y issue, and why Gen Y watches The Daily Show, even if they're conservative, because they already know the inherent bias of the news. I don't like bias, and for a lot of the visualizations and interpretations, you automatically have inherent bias. Instead, give us the data, and then we'll go and create all the different visualizations. And so some of the things that you need to do in giving the data is to make it atomic and referenceable. And so that's why with the citation aspect, you sit there and you have a unique identifier for every single bit of knowledge that comes through in regards to all the different government documentation. And you've suddenly made all government documentation a huge searchable database on the web. Isn't that
you
awesome?
Make it all sound so easy.
It is. The funny thing is the implementation of this is easy. It's basically, we're looking at doing one implementation in Drupal. Drupal's already a content management system. It already does pretty URLs as it is. So all it would do is do the markup language inside of the HTML and then add the pretty URLs. And then Drupal can support it. And, for example, recovery.gov is done in Drupal. Hint, hint, hint. The New York Senate website is done in Drupal. Hint, hint, hint. We also came up with what I call the dirty fix, or the quick fix, which is where we go and we steal a trick from Google Analytics, where we ask them to simply, all the other sites would have to do if they've got like some cumbersome system, is put a little JavaScript in each page that needs to be sourceable, it needs to be citable, and put a DNS redirect so that like archive.house.gov goes to archive.org. And then what happens is when this JavaScript happens, whenever anyone calls up that page, it automatically pings archive. Archive goes, have we scraped this or not? If they haven't scraped it yet, then they scrape it. They put in the markup language. You have a little bitty tool that sits on the outside when anyone tries to copy and paste on the page. It says, hey, I noticed you're trying to copy and paste here. Would you like, to make this citable? Yeah, and to do a notation with it. And so it gives you the permalink. It can also push it to Dig or Facebook or LinkedIn or wherever. And then the next time that person clicks on that pretty attractive link that ends up being generated, because of the DNS redirect, it takes them over to archive.org. Sorry, so you would see archive.house.gov, blah, 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 the bill information. So even though the house has a really complex content management system that I don't even want to get into all the problems it has, we can still go in and create this to sit on top of it.
Yeah, and that was my last question. There's been a lot of focus, obviously, on Obama White House.
Mm-hmm.
Congress is also engaged. What about state and local government?
With the White House stuff, I was actually one of the little troublemakers who started scraping change.gov and whitehouse.gov as soon as I possibly could and tossing it into a wiki. The thing that I realized, though, is since it wasn't the official thing, no one would come and participate. So one of the things, so that's why I started doing the citability, is trying to get government to participate itself. I'm getting traction on the House level. I've been talking with people on the House Technology Committee who are very interested in, this quick fix for the House. And then on the state level, the New York State Senate is also quite interested. One thing that's really funny about the way that I've gone and created this is when I used to create large management systems in the past, I always had to worry about localization issues. So I make things very, very simple, ridiculously simple. And because of that, using this methodology, it works for any language. And works for the majority of governmental structures because everyone does paragraph notation format on some level. So in their legal documents, it doesn't really change very much. And so it becomes, it's global. And if you wanted to go and use it for your homeowners association, you could do that too.
Wow.
Because with Drupal, it's open source.
Silona Bonewald, League of Technical Voters. Thank you.
Thank you.